All right. Hello, everyone. Well, I have something slightly different for today. I'm here with Sam Klein and Annie Rauwerda. And I consider this sort of an 18-year follow-up on a conversation that I had with Sam here on, let's see, the last week of May 2005. And we had met at some event at MIT, and Sam was showing me Wikipedia. And in particular was showing me, look, you know, you can get, there are all these great things in Wikipedia. And he showed me my own page on Wikipedia, which I'm not sure I had even seen at that point. And at that moment, the Wikipedia was still young enough that things had been hooked up so that there was a little chirping sound every time there was an edit to Wikipedia. And I think I considered maybe we should do that for our source code updates in our office, but don't think it ever actually happened. We might have had a, you know, birds inside, so to speak, with lots of chirps going on. But anyway, so that was 2005, and then Sam got me to come to a Wikimania. No, Sam, you were saying it was an art project. Okay, how long did it last? How long did the birds last? When did they go extinct?
Daniel Wunsch set up the project, and I just set up a display of it at the Cyber Arts Festival in Boston. I don't remember exactly when it stopped being deeply integrated. It was reading recent changes off of IRC, because back then there was an IRC channel that got a ping for every edit.
Okay, well, fair enough. It's in any case, so since in the last 18 years, you know, Wikipedia has hopefully, presumably, grown up in some way or another. You know, I think its life and times might be well, and since that time, we built Wolfram Alpha, which came out in 2009, and now I haven't looked at my Wikipedia page in perhaps even since you showed it to me. Maybe I've looked at it once or twice since then, but not for many years. I kind of have this principle of not. I always feel bad when I don't read stuff that people write about me, because I know they put effort into writing it, and if I'm actually going to meet them, I will usually read it, but otherwise I don't, because I figure it's a bad sort of self dynamic, so to speak. Anyway, I thought you know, one of the things I wanted to do was to talk about, you know, we've put lots of material out into the world, that some of which I think has been picked up by Wikipedia, much of it probably hasn't. Some of it maybe should be picked up by Wikipedia, but can't be because of something we've done in you know, putting some copyright thing that makes it poisonous or whatever else. And I thought it might be interesting to and useful for the world and so on to see what things we have that might actually be useful to Wikipedia. And maybe we'll have to ease into this. Maybe we get to look at my Wikipedia page, but that's we'll have to ease into that. That doesn't come so easily. That's you guys presumably both have Wikipedia pages. How often do you look at them?
A lot.
Okay.
I worry about it a little bit, but I can't. I don't edit my own article, so I suppose it doesn't help me at all to be aware of it.
Right. Well, that's you know, I think one of the features of doing, you know, I do lots of live streaming, and one feature of that is, you know, you do what you do, and you're kind of in control of what you say. And if you say stupid things, well, you say stupid things, and it's kind of it's kind of a well-defined system, so to speak. I think, well, let's see, where should we start? We could start by we could just start by like what?
To give one grounding context, I'm listening in the background to the modern successor to RC Birds, which is called HatNote. And it is a very satisfying way to listen again to all the edits made on Wikipedia.
Okay, can we hear it? Can you put the audio into the stream?
Yes.
You
I
should
think
screen share.
let me screen share. Zoom tries to filter out audio coming from my computer, but
usually there's a thing you can check where it says send the audio as well.
Oh yeah, I'll see if I can do that. But I'll screen share while I'm doing it.
It sounds kind of like wind chimes.
Yeah.
And the size of the circle corresponds to how big the edit was. So some of the edits coming in are huge, some are tiny.
So what is a typical, so these are lots of edits to people's pages. What typically are those?
If someone's like fixing a typo, maybe that's the difference is just a few bytes. Maybe someone's adding a photo, that would be like a lot of bytes. Maybe they're rephrasing, stuff like that.
But so when there's a fairly, okay, Tom Jackson Jr., whoever that might be, it's interesting that most of the things we're seeing are people here. So is that if you look at the volume of none of the people that I've seen so far are people I've heard of. Well, Sears Roebuck, okay, there's a company. I've heard of that one. But when there are big changes, like for a people page, I mean, fixing a typo presumably is not showing up as a giant circle on this plot. So,
right, a big change might be pasting a whole section, or sometimes if you're moving things around or adding a lot of references, it ends up looking like quite a large diff in terms of character count.
And so what are the colors here? Oh, look at that.
I know. It's so the green ones, I believe, are from people who haven't made a user account.
Okay,
and
look, finally I saw Ilya Prigogine. That's a person I knew. but okay, so there we finally hit one that finally hit one that I know.
And there's a setting that you can do to add different languages, because I'm pretty sure we're just watching English Wikipedia. When you scroll down, yeah,
pick a language.
Right, but so that's the frequency of edits that we're seeing there in the
right. If you want something really fast, we can switch to Wikidata.
Does that have automated feeds? Yeah.
And so it's even more dominated by bot edits than the wikis, than the encyclopedias.
Well, so how many of the things we were seeing there, how many of the things will have been bot edits? Of just the regular Wikipedia editing, how much of that was bots? Is that visible?
It's easier to see when you look at the recent changes. So you can see the ones called, it looks like the bots are not filtered out here. So maybe 1 in 3.
Right.
Right now, this particular bot is making a lot of edits, JJMC89.
And what do you think that bot is doing? What are the typical bots doing?
I don't know, let's find out. So when you click on it, it will show you the user page. It's active. It's only partially exclusion compliant. It does not have a disable button. What is it doing? It processes categories for deletion. It's processing categories for discussion. So anytime someone thinks a category should be deleted, it applies the various templates. Maybe right now it's going through a backlog of queued up requests.
Okay. So is it useful? I mean, here, let me maybe this is cool, and that was an interesting view of modern Wikipedia. So
I met the guy that made it one time. We did go-karts in Santa Cruz.
What? Wait a minute. Maybe you should mute that audio. Otherwise, we're going to be listening to the music track. Well, let's see. So maybe where should we start? We can talk about some of the stuff that we have. So one thing, I just don't know what Wikipedia has, what it doesn't have. I mean, we could start. Let's start I mean, here's a really simple thing, is Wolfram Alpha. I have no idea whether there are links from Wikipedia to things you can do on Wolfram Alpha, which, for our sins is a free thing that everybody can use. And I have no idea whether, if you go to a page about, I don't know, let's take a look at let's see, I mean, if we go, I don't know, what is this? This is some computation thing. That should probably be linked to the page on Wikipedia about transfer functions, because look, you can compute it here. I have no idea if it is. What's the right way to make that happen? Or should we not bother? I mean, it's fine. It's like, so tell me what should be done with something like that?
Typically, articles they avoid linking to a particular source if there could be many sources, and it's not somehow.
Let's see what the article. I have no idea. I mean, we just picked this one.
Yeah. So it's a great example of what I think of as the ISBN problem.
Oh, let's look at what it links to.
So right now there aren't any external links to a place where you could render transfer functions,
which seems like a shame,
even though it would be useful. And similarly with ISBNs, people who see an ISBN, they often want to visit the record page somewhere where they can get a book, or they can find the standard metadata about how you can get it either in a library or to buy a copy.
No, and presumably if I go to this, okay, I'm right there, whatever that is.
Right.
And presumably if I go to a book here, well, there's an ISBN. Oh, wait a minute, that wasn't very useful.
If you click on the actual ISBN number, it takes you to this meta page, because otherwise you'd have to non-neutrally.
So it's not taking you to the Amazon
ISBN
page
source
to go buy the book.
Right. And if you're non-neutrally choosing one source, why are you supporting Amazon or Abe Books or some French?
But I mean, in this case here, this is the thing, we're paying for the servers to provide this for the world. It seems like the world should take advantage of it. That seems like a mistake. And I mean, I don't know, that seems like one of those inefficiencies in the world that, given that we've done the philanthropy of providing this for free to the world, seems like the world might as well take advantage of it. Or is that not the right way to think about it?
I think it would be great. I also, I'd love to hear your take, Annie. I think an example of the kind of landing page that everyone could get excited about would be a site that was not owned by a company, but was owned by a library somewhere, that generated things like this. And maybe Wolfram Alpha is the only instance of a good visualizer, and it could feature whichever visualizers it wanted. And the context of the page would be, here are ways you can visualize transfer functions online. And the page could still... I mean, this is,
so far as I know, this is I don't know about this particular thing. We literally picked this completely at random. So, and there will be, 5,000 other things like this in, Wolfram Alpha. So it's, I mean, like this one, I doubt there's another place. It's a fairly specialized thing. I doubt there's another place where you can do what we're doing here. So, and obviously, for our sins, we're running the servers that make this possible. Just like, Brewster is running the servers that make archive.org possible, where he's got a bot that's linking lots of things to archive.org.
which sometimes, even though it is a nonprofit library, sometimes runs into arguments as well, where people say, why are we automatically linking everything to the Internet Archive? There are other archives out there.
Are there?
There was a question about whether this was spam that was just adding extra cruft to every web citation. They've mostly been resolved.
Seems useful. I mean, it seems useful to me. I mean, it seems like, so, I mean,
yeah.
you know, one question here is, okay, so we've got something, I mean, this is something where, you know, this seems useful. What's the issue?
Well, so I'm not a transfer function expert, and
Nor am
SJ
I.
are on the block for longer than I have. But if it's helpful, I think that if I were reading that Wikipedia article on transfer functions and I had, you know, a little thing embedded from Wolfram Alpha where you can visualize things, as a reader, I would enjoy that. The logistics and arguments of why you can and cannot put that in there, that's where I think SJ might know more, because this seems pretty great to me.
I mean, you know, the fact is that what would be, I mean, so look, the things, there's Wolfram Alpha, which has tons and tons and tons of material. That's all freely available. There's, I mean, another example, well, so, you know, another example that, well, another example is MathWorld, which obviously predated Wikipedia and was, according to Jimmy Wales, at least a, you know, one of the things that he looked at as a kind of a model for how to do Wikipedia. And, you know, MathWorld is much more textual. And in the early years of Wikipedia, basically, you know, MathWorld was steadily mined by Wikipedia. I think often with citation, sometimes not. I don't really know in detail. But, you know, you know, and MathWorld is, oh yeah, MathWorld obviously has Wikipedia links on it. I mean, it has Wolfram Alpha links on it. You know, so this is a textual thing that we put out in the world that right. I think, you know, that hopefully with citation, I would hope with citation, I don't know, but I would hope, you know, was successfully mined by Wikipedia. I would consider that a, I mean, I think, you know, from our point of view, we put lots of effort into building MathWorld, and insofar as Wikipedia just took the content and, you know, took the users away from it, that's kind of a lose for us. But I'm philanthropic enough that I consider that okay. You know, it's good that the information is out there. I think
we had to be very careful. I mean, I think even in our very early discussions, when I would meet people who had worked on MathWorld, all I wanted was for them to license them under a free license. Then it would have been included very explicitly with attribution. And people had to rewrite these things in some cases from scratch or finding other sources to the extent that it wasn't under a compatible license. I don't think people weren't able to reach an agreement maybe with Eric. However it worked out.
Well, what would happen? Okay, so let's take another example. Okay, let's take a textual example. I mean, we got both textual and non-textual examples. Let's take a textual example that whose licensing is at least well understood, which is, you know, my big book, which has certainly, I mean, it's full of pictures that people might like, and I don't know, where's a good picture? Those are rather trivial pictures. Those are easy to generate, but you know, there's a picture people might like. Now, I have no idea whether, okay, so you tell me, could you take this picture? What will be involved in taking that picture and using it in Wikipedia?
You or the publisher would have to release it under a compatible license. So CC share alike.
So let's find out what the license is for this, which I don't actually know. Good question. Where is it? Let's see.
Copyright page.
The copyright page is long and complicated, but I think so this is probably a regular copyright page, and probably not. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so it's a regular copyright page. Let's see, what is this? This is so if we take, let's see, somebody is putting this in the, where is that? Where is the footer? What should I be looking for here? See, I don't know any of these things. Oh, there we go.
Right there.
Look at that. Look at that. What's that? Oh, how nice. Okay. So is that what you need?
Let's see. Yes, that looks good.
Okay.
Looks like
Is
sure.
that,
Like
is that exactly what's needed? I mean, I have no idea what
should
we click on it? Should we
let
find out what
me
it actually
look.
says? Attribution share alike.
Share alike is exactly what's needed. That's perfect.
Okay. So, okay. So that means in principle, people can take stuff from NKS and put it on Wikipedia. So I don't know whether they've done that, but they could. Is that
Yeah, fantastic.
so have at it. You're welcome.
All right.
to-
Flood Wikipedia with cool diagrams.
Right. I mean, there's lots of stuff here. So now maybe nobody ever noticed that. I mean, I'm sure that footer has been there for a long time. I mean, this is maybe actually, you know what? One thing that's probably a bug on our part is that footer is not on every page, but it probably should be. And that would be a, you know, that's an easy thing to fix. But yeah, that's so that means there's no structural issue there, and this is just content. I mean, we're not talking about now another thing that I would say is in here, which is really quite let's see, where do we have this? Like, I don't know. Let's look at this section here, for example. So this is basically huge amounts of kind of, this is very Wikipedia friendly stuff, because it's basically summaries of things that I wrote for, you know, that I wrote to as essentially footnotes to the things I was doing. So they're mostly not, they're much less about what's in NKS as they are my attempt at being an explainer of things in general. And I have no idea whether these have been mined. I mean, I do occasionally run into, you know, I use Wikipedia and I look for things, and I have actually looked at stuff, now that I think about it, about mathematical logic, and it's largely incomprehensible compared to what I've written. I mean, it's much, it's you know, it has, you know, this is at least nice and clean. Maybe some of what's on Wikipedia is more technically sophisticated, I don't know, but you know, this would be a good example of something where somebody could just lift this and quote it, because there are pieces here that are pretty much, you know, if you try and rewrite it, it's a mess, because it's actually quite, you know, it's quite a complicated thing to describe. But you know, so I mean, I assume with that, you know, with that thing, which should be on every page, with this, whatever they are, these little icons, that it would be allowed for somebody to just pick up a piece of text from here and plop it on the appropriate Wikipedia page. Is that a true statement?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, fine. So people should have at it with my blessing, because it's kind of like I wrote this for people to read it, and it's you know, I noticed so that's one big source, I guess, is NKS. Then I suppose another big source is all the things that I write in let's see. Well, that was definitely not. If I misspell my name, I won't get there.
It's your Massachusetts doppelganger.
Right. Then, so, you know, this is a ton of stuff. I'm sure some of these are linked on Wikipedia, but I think, for example, if you go to historical perspectives, that's pretty much the, I mean, you know, there are lots and lots of things here. There are lots of, unfortunately, there are lots of obituaries here, but they seem very popular among, well, people who knew the person as well as other people, and they are prime linking stuff. So let's look. Does this have a footer that? So this does not have. Okay, it says terms here. Okay, so what's this? What does this say? So I'm learning here. What? Okay, we encourage the use of aforementioned items in educational resources around the web, for example, on Wikipedia and university websites.
Amazing.
Okay, so.
Well, and it looks like the writings.stephenwolfram.com has been cited on 5 different English Wikipedia articles.
That's pretty lame.
I know, it's not very many.
It's
and one of them is Wolfram Mathematica. And then there's Julia, the programming language, Erica Jen, Moses, Sean Finkel, and then binary combinatory logic. And in those cases, it was all used as, it was, there was a statement that was made that probably paraphrased you or like wrote in different words. And then.
So that's really lame. I mean, honestly,
Right.
I've written, you know, 10,000 pages or something of stuff that, you know, and some of these posts get, I think, well, you know, some of them are in the millions of views on, you know, on my actual page. So it's so what's going on? Why are people, I mean, like this one, I'd be amazed. You know, if this one isn't cited by Wikipedia, Wikipedia is stupid, because I mean, I wrote this mostly because I wanted to understand this myself, but turns out it's been, you know, it's turned out to be really popular, and I am, and it even, in fact, Paul Graham of Y Combinator fame, who I've known since before Y Combinator, actually sent me mail saying, you know, you should publish this as a book, which I was a bit skeptical about, but we did it, and it's been quite successful as a book. But it's also just free on the web here. And
I'm sure it's because people have not gone to the terms page to try to parse it. Since the footer on most of the pages just says copyright Stephen Wolfram with a link to the terms, on a blog, you know, 99 times out of 100, that just means full copyright.
Well, fair enough. So we should add, I mean, it does say terms there.
Yeah. Yeah. So firstly, I think if you added the little MIT license icon there, many more people.
That would be a useful thing to do. That sounds like that's a good thing to do. So that's a takeaway here. Add that if we want people to actually read. I mean, it's not clear people read ever, but although I suppose the conceit of all of this stuff, of the things I write and all those kinds of things, is, you know, people read it. Otherwise, well, actually, for me, a large part of the point of writing is to understand things for myself. But it's a pleasant side effect that other people read them and hopefully get benefit from them. Yeah, I mean, I think people have been finding this page, so it doesn't really matter that that it isn't linked to from Wikipedia. But I mean, that list of things that link to writings is kind of depressingly small. I mean, it's kind of crazy, because there are pretty much definitive, you know, biographies, you know, obituaries, you know, explainer pieces and so on about all kinds of different things here, and it's kind of weird. I mean, like this is a thing that I did, small thing, but it has things like, you know, the game graphs of tic-tac-toe, which surely somebody wants to have on Wikipedia somewhere, and they're, you know, hopefully nice pictures of those. And it might have, I'm sure it has many other kind of, well, what's this? This is some other type of game and so on. And there are probably lots of things here. Okay, I'm sure this is a rather obscure thing, which probably I'm linking to MathWorld for that.
I see the problem. So the terms of use releases the images associated with the writings under the MIT license, but it does not license the writings themselves. And the writings are covered by the Wolfram terms of use, which says basically full copyright.
Okay. Okay. So maybe we should change that. Should we change that, or will nobody care? I mean, because obviously to change that is, I mean, I don't particularly want, actually, do I care if people sort of mirror these pages? Not really. It's fine, actually. I mean, I wrote them for people to read them. But is that, I mean, will anybody care?
I would care a lot. Okay,
fine. So you're a good sample. So that's, so far as I know, that's something, these are my pages. So I think, so far as I know, that's a thing that that we're perfectly in a position to do. I think let me give you an example actually of a recent thing. So I wrote, this is a history of the second law of thermodynamics, which, so far as I know, exists nowhere else. I mean, I wouldn't have written it if I thought it existed somewhere else, because it was a huge pain in the neck to write. And my main interest in this whole thing was writing about the things that I figured out about this, which, but I wanted to kind of anchor that in the history. So, now here, there are images that are probably, I mean, that's a book from 1680s, I think, which is presumably firmly out of copyright. And my guess is that okay, so that says source there, and that went to Brewster, okay? And so this would be an example of, I mean, this particular document, there's probably, well, this is a very citable document, so to speak, because it has, well, it's a long, it's 100-page long, or more actually, story. But so what should we know? I mean, how can we make this, I think people have been reading this. It's got lots of views, which is nice. And it will also come out in a book about the second law that should be out in another couple of months. But what, I'm sure there's an article on Wikipedia about the history of the second law. I am completely certain that this provides a lot of additional information.
Yes.
So,
two challenges. One is Wikipedia is not a good place for, it's not a great place for original synthesis. And it's a decent place for incorporating synthesis from an existing reliable source. Your site is one of the exceptions to personally hosted sites that are obviously reliable sources. I would say the default, the average blog on the internet is not considered a reliable source. And so there will be,
usually these blogs get posted also to archive, to, Paul Ginsburg's archive.
Yes,
right?
Great. Yes. So
I'm sure
that's a nice way to think about it. Anything that has a DOI that's on Paul Ginsburg's archive.org is a good source for things. And these blog posts are also a good source for things. They're obviously a good source. Whole-scale reproduction as the text of an article might be debatable. It depends on the topic. It depends on whether other people have opinions about what they want to say. But long long, full quotes, or just filling out sections that didn't exist, all make great sense. It's really nice. It's so much easier to fill out an existing article when you don't have to worry about copyright, and you can take as much as is appropriate from the source.
Right. Well, I mean, so, that's fine. It's super disappointing that only 5, that's kind of a negative, Pavlovian negative, why the hell should I care about this type thing, given that I've got, many, many years of endless, not all of these are some of these are Wikipedia fair, some of them are not. Some of them are, a piece like this is surely interesting, but probably not, it's not, fact. It's got, it's more something where if somebody's writing something about the philosophy of numbers, this would be a relevant thing to cite, but it's not a thing where it's got, it's not a fact pack, so to speak. But let me ask you another question here. So let's take a picture, for example, I don't know, that random picture there, okay? So somebody wants to take that picture and stick it in Wikipedia with attribution. What, can they do that? What do they need to, what do they check to do that?
All of your images could be uploaded en masse or at any time to Wikimedia Commons, which is its own site. And that would be very welcome. And there would be a category there'd probably be a family of categories. You could have a category for NKS, a category for each of the sections on your site. And then anyone who wanted to could embed them in any article.
That makes sense. Sounds
That
like
would
a
be
good
cool.
idea. What's that?
I said that would be cool. I would be excited.
Yeah, I don't see why that, I don't see any reason we wouldn't want to do that. And that's, it would be some, is there anything else we should know about that? This is an image. It can be, by the way, this of course has something different that is not part of that story, but this has the code that made that image as well. Right? So, that's the code. You can just rerun that image. There it is. That's a big piece of modernity that I don't think is quite, Wikipedia isn't quite at that point yet. That's something that that requires a whole different technology stack to support that. Something that would be, it's eventually it will be the future of sort of all scholarly publishing and so on, that people say, there's a picture in your paper, I want to be able to reproduce it. Let me just click it and get the code and reproduce it. That's the kind of thing that, talk about sort of the reproducibility of science. That's the ultimate version of that. But people haven't but I guess the question here is, we can do the homework of sort of uploading lots of images to Wikimedia. What is it? Wikimedia Commons or something? Is that the thing? It's just a program that would do that. Is there anything we should know about but I'm not going to add them. I don't know, should I add them? I'm not personally going to add them to Wikipedia pages, because I think that's it's just, I don't, my service to the world consists of writing, many thousands of pages per year of stuff and doing, hundreds of hours of live streams. It does not extend to, editing Wikipedia and having people tell me that, tell me how horrible I am and so on and so on and so on. Not my idea of fun. So I think it's kind of like I'm a primary producer, so to speak. I'm not the person to do that homework, so to speak. Sam, you're suggesting, so you say what you're suggesting here, because
yes,
I don't quite understand.
So data points, claims with sources that can go into Wikidata or new Wikidata entities, and media that's already under a free license, you can post yourself. That's the best. That's the best option. And then the person who is adding it clearly has some part of the provenance of.
So how would somebody know? So let's say we upload, I suspect we have 100,000 images we could upload. So is anybody ever going to know that?
That's enough that you might want to do a bulk upload, and you can queue those up. There's some.
No, but I'm asking the question, let's say we do that. It's going to be a certain amount of work on our part.
Yes.
If I find out in another year that only 2 people ever used those images, I'm going to be upset.
Well, usually when stuff is on Wikimedia Commons, it's tagged. So then when someone's writing their article about, I don't know, whatever the photo is, they'll hopefully find the tag. It's just a lot of work to tag stuff.
What do you mean by tagged?
Well, just like a metadata tag, maybe. See, I don't really know.
Presumably these have alt tags. I'm sure these have alt tags. Is that what you mean? Or is that
Well, I don't think that's what I mean. What, like,
well, let's take an example.
Let's
take a less silly example, because let's take an example from because that particular one was just not so. Let's take this picture here. Okay, so that is a picture of so that could say it comes from, its tags could be, okay, it's part of the tic-tac-toe section of my thing about games and puzzles as multi-computational systems. And then one could, essentially all of the graphics here has the form of, statement colon graphics.
Yeah, so you would, that would be like, the tic-tac-toe, multi-computational systems. Maybe you would even tag Stephen Wolfram work. Puzzles.
Right, so then it's a collection of tags that go from, that in this case would be the title. It probably has an alt tag. How do I see the alt tag? I don't even know how. What do? Do I say expect accessibility properties? Is that right? How do I do this? I should know this, but I don't. What do I do there? How do I have it show me? It's his name. Surely, how do you see an alt tag? What do I do? If I switch off images in this browser, I would certainly see the alt tag.
Can you right click to see it?
Well, I thought I could.
Oh,
Inspect accessibility properties. What's that?
I'm trying to visit the page to see if I see any alt text. But in general, a nice idea for a project this size would be to make a small project page about it on Commons or on Wikipedia, and then invite the people who work on related subject areas.
Well, I think that the practical thing that, okay, so if we, we can certainly have somebody go, and it'll mostly be a bot, go through and take, we have versions of all these pictures, obviously. We have this picture, you can just take that picture, right? It's a GIF of some kind. I'm sure I could just take this and whoops, just take that. When I first saw Windows like this, somebody showed me, I visited Xerox PARC in probably 1979, and somebody showed me, windowed operating system, and they were like, oh, you can just, drag this to there. And I was like, well, what happens if the window is covered up? And it's like, this seems crazy. And it's like, well, it was one of those cases where I was wrong, that, okay, that just is giving me that is okay, so that's the PNG for this. Okay.
Are you looking for the alt? I was looking through the HTML trying to find the alt tag too.
Is there no alt tag? There must be an alt tag.
Okay, maybe I'm crazy, but I didn't see one. SJ, you should check.
Maybe it got stripped out in publishing.
It's possible. Yeah, it's possible. I'm a little surprised. I thought these things had alt tags. Maybe it also is messed up by the fact that it has its computational version as well. But that's okay. That's
because often you can hover over and see the alt, right?
Usually you can, except that it just says copy input to clipboard here.
Which is also cool, but not an alt tag.
Yes, but not an alt tag. It's a different thing. So I mean, okay, so let's just go through. Let's say we were tagging this. Assume it had an alt tag. Maybe it doesn't have an alt tag. Maybe somebody's written an alt tag for it. Maybe they haven't. But let's say we're tagging this. We would give some number of tags. We would give, the title of the piece probably, this tic-tac-toe thing, and then this. I mean, yeah, it'd be good to actually see this process. But let's first of all, let's just get a scope for what's out there. So there's MathWorld, there's NKS, there's all my writing stuff. Then another big area, which again, God knows whether anybody's bothered to make use of, is our demonstrations project, which is so this is about, how many is it? 12,000 plus, it says. I'm sure you've seen this. This is our, I'm not going to pick control theory again because I've randomly picked that, and it's an area I know very little about, so it would be a bad one for me to pick.
I would love to include these in articles. These are great. Now, my recollection is these are all under an NCSA license, so non-commercial only.
Okay, so maybe we can fix that. So one of the issues is these were often contributed to us by other people, right? And so we have certain obligations to them, but so let's see, where is the license information? Well, here, CC by NCSA. What does that mean?
Non-commercial use only.
Okay.
That's good for Wikipedia, right, Sam? No, never.
Unfortunately,
Sometimes I see it. Why do I see it sometimes?
I don't know. Some Wikipedias will use things they'll basically use them as fair use. But
well, so what should that say to make this usable?
CC by SA.
And what does that mean? So, I mean, let me give you an example of what, okay, so then on Wikipedia, I mean, okay, first step is people should surely just link to these pages, which requires no incorporation. So if they haven't done that, it's bad Pavlovian conditioning for us to say, let's do something great for Wikipedia with these pages. If nobody cared enough to link to them, that's a bad sign. So I don't know whether people did. I'm sure you can look it up. But, so that would be the first step, is linking to these pages, right? Now, the second step would be using, use an image like this, right? Use a static image from the page, right? Because to do more than that, you have to embed this page, right? So here there's some kind of embedding mechanism. Okay, there it is. There's some embedding mechanism. Yeah. So what would be the preferred way to do this? So that seems to be a fancy embedding mechanism.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
It would be the best user experience if people had an embed while they were reading something and didn't have to shift pages. That would require someone, probably on the Wikipedia side, to write a gadget for this that did the embed in a CSS friendly way that embedded it seamlessly into a MediaWiki page. But starting with a screenshot is certainly a lovely first step. And maybe that
presumably what could be done, I mean, for lots of these pages, just having one static case of, if I say copy to clipboard of this thing and I go and I just paste it in here, I will get that thing. Isn't this amazing that you can just do that and I can be, just using it right there, right? Isn't that cool? And it will probably also work directly in the cloud here, but it will be slower. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this, yeah, there we go. This is just in my web browser, but my web browser is kind of slow. And it's having to do server transactions every time I move something here. But so, I mean, one possibility, which might, by the way, have a different license for us and for the original creators, is take, adjust, it to the configuration you want, and then take that screenshot and use that screenshot.
Yeah.
I mean, so, that's but so, for example, we could probably, expand this. See, I don't know whether, well, again, I don't know what the upstream commitments that we've made to our contributors are. My guess is that they'd all be fine with this. If it links back to this page and it links to them as the source of it and so on, I think everybody will be fine. I mean, they know that they're signing up for something which is intended to be a public resource. I think, so, I mean, in terms of the embedding, well, yeah, somebody can absolutely take this embed code and figure out how to make that work in MediaWiki. I don't know whether it may be straightforward. I mean, I'm sure if I take that piece of code, I'm not an expert in, okay, so this is, okay, I don't know whether you can, decode this, but cross-origin script, I don't know exactly what this is doing. But that's, yeah, I don't know what this is doing. So I can't opine. Maybe, do you know this stuff to the point where you can,
it looks like it's just calling other JavaScript that you have.
Okay.
To tell you how you're interacting with it.
Okay, but I mean, so the question is, that will be the thing that somebody would have to make a MediaWiki version of, is that right?
Yeah.
And well, somebody should do that. And so you're suggesting here a button that takes a snapshot. Well, I think it's a button that takes, I mean, that's software engineering work. You guys have got to show me that enough people are going to care that we should do it. Because if I find that, if I go look on Wikipedia and find that only 3 people have ever cited 12,000 demonstrations that we have out there, it's a big negative of no way do I get to allocate software engineering resources to support.
Right. There's I guess the legal version, the legal only version would be to add a clause to the licenses that says you, the viewer, can take a screenshot of this image in this configuration and use it under a CC.
Yeah, I think the point is maybe what we should do is say the images.
Right.
See, I think the problem with this is, you know what the problem is? The problem is there are educational publishing companies that both license some of this stuff from us and want this stuff from us.
Right.
And by the time somebody's charging $200 for a chemistry textbook, I don't really think it makes a lot of sense to say, we're going to, give away all that work, so to speak. So I think
they want the interactive.
What's that?
They want the interactive that the students.
I don't know. I assume they want the interactive part. Yeah. And I think Wikipedia, honestly, the interactive part seems like a bunch of heavy lifting. Yeah. And it seems like the screenshot is the part that's of probably of highest immediate interest. And the screenshot, it's for sure these screenshots here would be, we could absolutely put a different license for those screenshots, which that's an easy thing to do. And I think that will be a fine thing. I mean, and that's, and we can, I don't know whether people might want to take this part off, which would be okay. But yeah, I mean, to put a separate line that says underneath here, this content is whatever it is, whatever that doesn't have that NC part to it. That seems to me to make perfect sense and to be fairly, a straightforward thing to do. Now, okay, so then there's demonstrations. That's 12,000 of these demonstrations, and I'm not even going to. Maybe I'd be too horrified to go look at how many people have used them already. I mean, they've been out for what, since 2005, I think, maybe even earlier than that. Maybe 2006. But so it's so if they haven't been used, it's kind of like, why? So okay, so let's see.
And you have data on the most popular.
Me? Are you asking me?
I was asking Stephen, but you too.
Oh.
No, I mean, of which ones of these are popular? Oh, sure. I mean, we could find that data, but I mean, it's not hard. What I would do is the popularity of these on our website will not necessarily be related to their utility for Wikipedia. I mean, I have no idea which of these, for one reason or another, have somebody linked to them because, who knows what, and quite a lot of these are, so a pretty common thing is for people to, let's see, what is this? Okay, we're even mentioned on, oh, for God's frigging sake. See, this is the kind of thing. This is why I shouldn't open these pages.
My page was deleted at some point.
Rewrite the damn thing.
It has definitely improved my mental health.
What's that?
My page was deleted at some point, and it has definitely improved my mental health. Seeing people arguing over pages.
Yeah, well, so I mean, that you shouldn't show me this, because this is a like no software engineering resources. Sorry.
Right. Well, this is a classic Wikipedia problem with all partners, actually.
Right. I mean, so
often the challenge is the easiest to find text about an organization was produced at some point by a PR group. And so when people summarize it for an article, they're summarizing PR. And there's an immune response because there are also paid PR companies that are going and sort of subversively trying to edit things in favor of clients. So
yeah. I mean, look, when I look at people's Wikipedia pages, for a slightly obscure academic, I would eat my hat if the page wasn't written by the person themselves. Right? Because it contains information nobody else could have, nobody else would care about. It's, and it seems to me, it's a perfectly useful thing. I want to know about this person. It's a page which maybe some other people have looked at, and so it doesn't contain pure nonsense, but it's perfectly, it's like nobody else cares enough to do it. And so, seems now, people may say, oh, but it's shocking. But I mean, it seems useful to me. I mean, it's not, I'm not signing up to do that, but, and I'm less obscure than the people whose pages have that characteristic, so to speak, for better or worse. I don't know whether it's a good thing to be less obscure, but I am less obscure. But anyway, I mean, coming back to, okay, let's see, what's on the foraging list, so to speak.
But can I let me highlight the strengths of the Wiki network? People often think about the article on a topic as the way the topic gets represented, but often the category of things from that topic is more interesting. And so like the category of media, especially where something really is a primary source, it's less that like the interesting thing is to find all the instances of things from that source, right? So media from an educational project, or topics, topics covered by Khan Academy. I think the article at Khan Academy is probably bad, but somewhere there's a really interesting category, which is drawn from their ontology. of all the things, like all the things that you can learn.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, the new gorilla on the block is LLMs. And LLMs are pretty good at pulling together, disparate information from across the web. I find myself, actually, I had a use case just yesterday where I actually got sort of primary information from an LLM. I wanted to know what the correct description of words like styled and some other past participle-ish type words were. And I didn't know whether it's past tense, past participle, what is it? So I asked GPT-4, I think, and it did a really nice job. And it was a really nice job summarizing kind of things that it effectively had foraged from very disparate sources. And I kind of think that that's, maybe the future is, everybody gets a page created, on the fly, so to speak. And and the whole, somebody with their pitchfork is saying this and somebody else with their pitchfork is saying that. And it doesn't really matter because some AI is going to make some totally arbitrary and often completely wrong decision. And every time you press the regenerate button, it's going to give a different one. But I mean, just to, okay, so look, here's just in terms of other sources of things. Yeah, no, Sam, I wasn't looking for that specific word. I was looking for the category of words that were past tense-like words. And let's see, I think I recorded what I had there, so I could remember what where did I have it? Where did I put it? Where would I have put this? You see, I record everything. So it's certainly recorded in screenshots that my machine automatically takes, but sure. I'm not sure whether I can immediately pull it up. But it was sort of an interesting case because it was one of these things where there wasn't a head word that I could go look at and find the information, because that's the, and, but so, another source for me, if somebody cared, is, there are transcripts from, for example, science and technology Q&A. So there are explanations of God knows what. I mean, well, you can see the word clouds here of things. I don't know what I was discussing there. Why is it important that the periodic table is structured as a table rather than a list of elements? Okay, so there'll be some long transcript of me answering that question. Some of this stuff is probably quite useful because it's probably questions that there isn't really a great other source for. And who knows whether I did a good job in real time. I think I often do a decent job in real time with these kinds of things. So there's another, I mean, this I think is on the order of 50 million words, maybe something like that. Some immense amount of material here that that somebody could mine. It's more work to mine than I'm sure we've got. Oh, this is actually going to go to the YouTube. No, that's not what I want. Help, not what I want.
Yeah, the Q&A material is
right.
It doesn't really have a home right now in Wikipedia's sibling projects, but there's a live demo of what a wiki answers could look like.
That's interesting. It's an interesting idea. I mean, it's been. Oh, wow, from AI systems. Well, at least in my current configuration, I'm not an AI system. I'm just a poor human. And this is, oh yeah, let's see. This was the, this was the thing that, this was my actual example here of maybe, how do I get this? That's a good scheme.
So Andy, there's a lot of spontaneous beauty that comes up in these visualizations. It makes them very satisfying to
Yeah. So here,
through, even when you don't know
this
why.
was the thing I asked yesterday. What grammatical form are, and this was a really sloppy asking. I'm embarrassed it's so sloppy. What grammatical form are translated and styled? So it says past participle of the verb, whatever, and this and then I was saying foolishly, because I should know this stuff, is a past participle an example of something in past tense? Yes, a past participle, blah, 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 blah. So that was useful. I was writing something and I needed this fact, and I'm not sure I could have easily found that by, I could have perhaps by reading headwords of, past tense and this and that and the other. But this was an example where kind of the aggregate wisdom of the AI was useful. Let's see. So I mean, I'm trying to think about other places. Oh yeah, here's another. Well, there's another thing that is just now. Let's see. What other things are there? There's also. I mean, there's a data repository which would be useful for. Again, it's the kind of thing where these are just cleaned data sets about all kinds of random stuff. And yeah, I think many of these look quite special purpose, but there probably are pages.
Look at that.
What's that?
That's great. Now I want to browse Danish fire insurance claims.
Yeah, you see, but the thing that's neat about this will be if I pick this up, right? I copy it. I mean, this is now our tech. If I pick this up, I can paste it in here, and I should get, there's the actual time series, and I can just say,
yeah,
we're alive, and we can do things with it, and we can compute. I'm sure if I did, moving average of that. Well, let's just take the moving average of that time series with 10 steps or something. That should give us a smoother version of that. But anyway, I mean, those are just that. But that seems a bit specialized. Let's see, what things am I forgetting that are really big chunks? Oh yeah, here's an example of something. This is an interesting case. This is a project that we did for Museum of Math that I've been involved in since it started. And this was an attempt, this was sort of the beginnings of getting sort of an inventory of things that one could get for a physical gallery. So this is just, now I wonder okay, so this is various images and so on. And good question, what licenses? Oh, okay, so then there's a whole explanation of this. So this is good material. I mean, this would be, I'm sure if there isn't an article about Turing's zeta function machine, there should be one. If there is one, it would surely be useful to have these kinds of things in it. Now let's see, what does it say? Okay, so it's got a whole description about this thing. Wow, this is a long one. Wow, it's a really extensive story here. And okay, so that just says copyright, blah, blah, blah. Let's see, legal and privacy policy. What does that say? That's not very interesting. So this is an example of one which is currently not Wikipedia friendly from what I can see. But it could be made so. I mean, I think, what is about this site? I don't think, I mean, I don't know looks like this is simply our copyright. Now, okay, so here there are image credits. So some of these images are probably, some of them may be freely uploadable. The ones that we've made are presumably freely uploadable, but others are not. But so I mean, you know, this looks like a thing that has a lot of content that should be Wikipedia friendly content. Now, you know, I would assume that in your, you know, don't put original research. Well, any piece of history that anybody writes is an original representation of that history. So it's kind of like that can't be a correct, you know, so it's like, unless you exclude all historical material, that doesn't make sense.
You include, Wikipedia tries to hone in on being a tertiary source that summarizes the perspectives of a range of secondary sources.
Fair enough. But okay, so I mean, I would say that you know, if you look at, let's look, for example, at so I mean, this, for example, this I think would be considered a secondary source. That fair assessment?
Yes.
I mean, this is not, I was really hoping that we would get to do some kind of Indiana Jones style, you know, finding mathematics artifacts in you know, in jungles and things like this. But although there were a few small cases of that, even one in South America, but not in a jungle, it was mostly, this is very much tamer kinds of sources, and this I suppose is so I mean, that's kind of secondary source type material. So then, and again, I don't know with these pictures, I have no idea what our image, you know, I'm sure we give somewhere at the bottom here. I'm sure we give, yeah, we got a lot of material here. Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. So probably anything where we do not specifically cite a source for the image, it's a deeply public domain thing, because these are mostly, you know, from books that were published in the 1700s type thing. But and I wonder what happens. You know, it doesn't look like we have any. It doesn't click to anything. So I'm assuming that this is a this one does have an alt tag, Cataldi's divisor table. Well, so let's see what you're suggesting. You're suggesting things, Sam.
Annie, what do you think of this potential workflow?
Okay,
say for people who are watching this, maybe we should say what the workflow is. Shall I copy your workflow out so that I can put it somewhere? Let's copy it and for people.
Working from the easiest things to add to the potentially most complicated. You have all of these neatly organized documents that identify some concepts. If you extract the concepts, you could see whether there's a Wikidata entity for it. If not, you can make one with these articles.
Look, we use, okay, so we have a Wikidata data you know,
function, so, yeah, library.
Right, well, it's not a library, it's just a built-in function. I mean, so if I go and look at our entity for Alan Turing, okay, oh, that's interesting. Why does that not do what I thought it would do? Why does it not do that? Oh, it needs to have a property. Yes, it needs to have a property. So it needs to say something like, I don't know whether this is that something that's going to work? No. Well, let's take an example. Let's take an example here. So that's using Wikidata entities. God knows whether it's correct. Let's see. Mass of the moon. I mean, we've, okay, and that divided by line 14. Well, we're close. maybe some part of the moon fell off between so I mean, I think this is okay, right? This is I'm not an expert on how this works. This is what we call an external identifier. So this is using let's see, how do we get this? I think we say okay, so if I say, for example, have an example here of take our, in fact, we should be able to do this here. This should give us here we go. So this is now showing the Wikidata information about all these things. So now, presumably, if I take that Wikidata, oops, what did it just do? If I take that Wikidata item, I say copy that, I would guess that we can get, that we have a way to get the entity that is that in our system. How do we do that? I think oh yeah, actually that's an important point, right? So we have yeah, so we have a Wikidata search mechanism. So if I say Wikidata search for, let's say, Alan Turing, oh my, who's the real one? Challenging. Oh, that's a sculpture. Okay, let's try that one. Let's see what we have. Let's try that. Yeah, so I mean, we have some knowledge of what's here, and it's I would say that we've not been particularly enthralled with our ability to use this data because it's mostly really messy compared to stuff we already have. But it's a nice way to cross-check lots of kinds of things.
Please clean it up. I mean, that's another easy way to.
Yeah, but that's not. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? We spend huge amounts of money and software engineering to, build our own sort of curated source of data, and that's not that's not a reasonable ask.
Slice off the power law. Slice off the power law of the things you care about, and if you run into something outside the power law, that's it's a long.
What we have done, I think we have put some of our identifiers into Wikidata, right? Because that's what you need to be able to link up. So for example, the fact that there is an Alan Turing here that is the actual person, that is our Alan Turing person. I'm really confused by the fact that I'm not able to. Well, I wonder what happens if we just say image here. I wonder whether that's going to. No, it just says missing, not available. There's a way to get our corresponding entity from this, because what's there right now, I mean, if I just say what's there now, I mean, look, here's the basic story. From a philanthropic point of view, we're putting a huge amount of information out there in the world, pictures, et cetera, which, we and I are doing, well, maybe as a side effect of me writing things so I actually understand them myself or whatever else. In some cases, they're really just for kind of knowledge philanthropy, so to speak. And anything where we can kind of, with small, if it's just a question of flip this switch and it makes things easier for Wikipedia, great. If Wikipedia throws shit in our face as a result of doing that, then obviously we say, well, we shouldn't be doing this. That's kind of the But you know, things which are easy to do, like changing footers on pages and things, that's completely fair game. And I, you know, those are really useful suggestions. And as I say, you know, from a philanthropy point of view, it's a great thing for us to do. Things that require real serious effort and software engineering and so on, pretty hard to justify. I mean, and I think, you know, we're sort of at a, so I mean, I think that's but let's see, was Annie about to make some great suggestion which got cut off here?
No, I wasn't. I wish I were.
Okay, fair enough. So I mean, it sounds like there are, you know, uploading a bunch of pictures to Wikimedia Commons, changing some footers. I think those are things that make perfect sense, and you know, we'll do them. You know, that sounds like a good thing.
And for everything that is that's out there for one of these educational portals, those summaries and updates should make their way back into articles eventually. But a nice way to start, and this doesn't have to be done by you. Once it's under a suitable license, it can be done by anyone with a topic extractor, is to create entities for things that don't have articles yet. And then there's an entity. Then when you upload an image about it, the image Commons likes to have links to related Wikidata entities. So you've already made the entity with a thing that's depicted in or being visualized by the image. And then when someone goes to start an article, they already have all of this context.
Well, that's something, I don't know how easy that is to do. Maybe our Wikidata search mechanism, if Wikidata has good, I mean, I believe we have the technology to easily create a, you know, Sparkle, you know, Wikidata thing, because so insofar as we can, you know, to get the things up to our standards of canonical entities and so on, that's a whole different story. To do something up to Wikidata's standards of canonical entities is probably much easier. I don't know whether that's I mean, you know, in modern times, we might just ask an LLM, pick out, you know, pick out the keywords. In fact, I think we even have, let me find this, in our new prompt repository that just went live. There is a thing. In fact, maybe we should have, somebody should put in some Wikipedia related prompts here. I'm pretty sure, so like there's a glossary generate prompt, which takes a piece of text and asks for a glossary. And this is all, right, it's programmatically accessible. So you can just use LLM resource function of glossary generate of whatever text it is, and it will generate the glossary. Now, I think also, so we could easily ask it for, in fact, I'm pretty sure there is one here for, oh, maybe it isn't, oh, index terms suggest, there we go. So, okay, so here we go, right. This is suggesting index terms for, I bet that's actually something I wrote about Ada Lovelace. Hey, that's pretty good. Well, decent at least. I mean, that's probably good enough for a here are some tags type thing. In other words, if one feeds the LLM a paragraph of text, yeah, actually this is a good idea. So feed the LLM a paragraph of text that describes the image, which obviously we have in the case of any of those images I'm showing you, because they are images that were part of a piece of narrative text. So we can easily put those tags into the Wikimedia Commons kind of, you know, there's presumably a place to put tags there. Is that a true statement? So what happens? I mean,
there's a taxonomy of categories. So you can search for matching categories or create new ones.
Okay, but is that that's presumably what our Wikidata data search what our Wikidata search is doing in Wikidata, at least.
Possibly.
Now, another source, by the way, another whole different source of this stuff is our documentation, which increasingly has, I don't know, I'm going to pick a random page and I have no idea whether it's going to have anything interesting on it, but I bet if I try and pick that looks like a lose. That one doesn't have anything interesting. But quite a few of these pages have big kind of narrative stories about these things. And again, I have no idea which of these will have that. Actually, I suspect the graph theory team has been bad at putting these in. Let's try another one. Let's try something like this. Let's try that guy, for example. Wow, that's lame. Yeah, let's see, there's lots of stuff. Okay, well, this is all stuff about there's actual data about people. That's a slightly different story. What I'm looking for is in I'm surprised here that I'm not seeing more in this, but many of these stories about some particular obscure mathematical function have a whole section that is basically background information, which somebody could lift. I mean, these ones don't seem to be very big on that. I think these functions are not particularly ornate. But again, I mean, I think, I don't know, I wonder what the yeah, this is okay. So again, these pages are that's something that I guess we do like that. Yeah, so I mean these pages seem to be not directly usable. Maybe they should be. I'm not sure. And I mean, I think yeah, so there's a whole other, let's see, what's another thing, another big area that I know very little about is our community website. And this has, I'm not the best navigator of this. But this is, how do I find, what's this? I have no idea what this is. This is a thing contributed by some user of ours that I don't know whether I mean, what does it take for somebody who contributes this? Let's see, where does it say what somebody can do here? It says cite this notebook this way. What does it have? It doesn't seem to have any. So the whole page has a copyright. But what should this have? So this is people contributing material. They're contributing sort of essays and so on. What should this have so that somebody can pick it up and use it in Wikipedia?
If that had a clear license, a CCSA license, that would be easy. And also, if the initial contributor is part of the contribution process, that also makes it obvious that there's no license obstacle. Right,
but so can this person, whoever this is, Ms. AZ, whoever she is, if this person goes to Wikipedia and says, hey, look, I got this cool picture I made. Here it is. It's this exoplanet discoveries per year. Seems like a relevant picture. And they sort of say, I have rights to this picture. They upload it to Wikipedia. They link back to this article. Is that considered fair game or is that not considered fair game? Or do they have to get a friend of theirs to do it? How does it work?
Annie, you want to field this one?
I'm so sorry. I was talking to somebody in the chat about a meta project.
Oh, great. So I think they
No,
have
so
to
what
make
I'm
sure
asking is,
they have to make sure that they have the
here's a
right.
person who, okay, apparently a high school student posted 2 days ago, you know, this particular picture, and maybe she wants to just put this on Wikipedia because it fits in some article about exoplanets. Okay, and what should be done? Should she just go and do that? Assume she has the rights to this picture, which she does. You know, it's like she can go log in and just do that, or is somebody, and then she'll link back to this piece she wrote here. Now, is somebody going to say, oh, you can't do that because you're linking to your own piece, or how does that work? I mean, this is clearly a person.
You can post the image to Commons as long as it's under the right license. That's very welcome.
Right, but then what should the person do? I mean, so let's say this fits on a Wikipedia page. What should they do?
They could insert it into the page themselves. I'm pretty sure that's fine, right? They could also, if they're not sure where it fits, they could just do a bunch of tags.
You know, then nobody's ever going to find it. Right? I mean, that's just a waste of time. Right? So, I mean, if one says to somebody like this, you know, you've done something nice, say you've made a nice picture, go put it on Wikipedia. You know, that's a, and, you know, and then it, you know, that seems like a thing that should make sense. I mean, in principle, one could get me to do that. I mean, in principle, when I generate, you know, hundreds of images for some blog I wrote, in principle, you know, the world could get me to go to Wikipedia and go and add those images in relevant places. In practice, with me in particular, that's very unlikely to work, because it's just like, I'm not, you know, my personal calculation is I'm going to do things where I just put them out in the world and people can do with them what they want, rather than, you know, I'm going to fight tooth and nail for this particular thing, not my, you know, that's not a sort of a personal calculation, so to speak. But
so a small change that would make a big difference to encouraging people to post on Wikipedia could be identifying articles that are relevant and inviting them to suggest adding an image that they made on the talk page of that article. Wikipedia just operates on its own timescale, so they should be ready for what could be a relatively slow timescale of talking to people who visit that article and actually read the talk. But that's probably more satisfying than trying to add it into the article when they don't quite know how, and then getting some pushback that feels like it wasn't wanted. When
okay, the safe option is to put it in the talk page, but I feel like you can just put it in the article, and if someone gets mad, then you can discuss with them.
That's what I do. So that's what I do too. If there's something to make it satisfying, we should have a way for curators who want to help people who are doing this to find the family of edits that were made that way. Because often people will make a change, it'll last for a while, and when they come back, maybe a couple months later, it's not there anymore and they're not quite sure why. Maybe someone else had a different opinion. Maybe someone thought they had a better image that could fit that goal. And the image is still there, categorized appropriately on Commons, but that might be a little bit confusing to them. So anything that would make that process feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can probably assume that this, you know, high school student, whatever, might be an enthusiastic, yes, I'm going to put my image here. I made a nice image. It fits. It's a good thing, you know, or it might be, you know, we have, I mean, I happen to click on a page that's a high school student. We also have, you know, the acknowledged world experts on this and that also, you know, contribute to our community. So could be an acknowledged world expert on this or that rather than a high school student, but that doesn't really matter. But any of those people, if they go and add this picture to Wikipedia and people kind of, call them names and say, go away, you'll never have them again. I mean, that's kind of the, that's sort of the calculation. And so if there's if there's a thing, I mean, I don't know whether we're, if there's a thing to tell people that, oh, go do this. I mean, you're basically saying, go put it on the page, but then you have to be prepared to go, I don't know, fight in the talk trenches or something. And, is there a way, I mean, if, is it the case that the way Wikipedia now is a place where everything is fought? If that's the case, then that's okay. You're shaking your head. That's a good sign. That's
only on controversial pages, really. I think Annie's right. For most pages,
just put it out.
It
might get removed, but often the person that removes it will have a reason that's at least understandable, and maybe the person that's removing it is right. And usually people are like really reasonable. I don't know. I think that you should tell these people to put them on and then see what happens.
Fair enough.
And don't freak out if there's feedback. If there's feedback from someone else who cares about the presentation of the page, that's nice. It's someone who you can collaborate with too.
Right, but I mean, for us, like we could put a post on our community saying, hey, we talked to these Wikipedia people and they said, we've changed the footer here so that it's Wikipedia friendly. And we could say, hey, if you're posting things here, think about putting interesting pictures onto Wikipedia, right? Is that a sensible thing to do? Or are people going to say, pitchfork, you can't tell people to post things on Wikipedia?
I would say, tell people to post things on Commons, which welcomes it and exists for this. And then to start conversations on the appropriate articles to see where the image would make a good illustration. Because they're separate. The image is always going to be useful in the context of this original post. And then there is a more nuanced discussion about which articles it might illustrate well and where it goes in the article. And
Right. But realistically, the people who are writing about something are the people who know, they're going to know where this fits. And they're either going to put it there and, maybe somebody will say, maybe this high school student doesn't know this or that thing, and they might put it in the wrong place. And that could happen. It's much less likely to happen. I mean, if I were editing Wikipedia, I think it is much less likely. I'm much less likely to make a mistake, so to speak. In other words, I kind of know what I'm talking about. Usually when I think I know what I'm talking about, I typically do know what I'm talking about. So I'm much less likely to make a mistake. But, other people, and it's not, I don't know this person. So, I mean, I have no idea this person. I sound like I'm downranking this person, but I'm not. I'm just whatever. I think but I think anything that's too long a path to gratification, I don't think we're going to be able to get anybody to do. I mean, I think some auto upload to Wikimedia Commons, that's possible. Something that involves a human in the loop, I think they've got to, the human has got to see some payback of gratification, of philanthropic warm fuzzy feeling, or whatever else it is, in finite time, or they're just not going to do it. Well, let's see. We've gone a long time here, and we got lots of interesting. You're saying, Sam, you're saying one maximum, don't edit in your area of expertise because the sense of someone hyper-focused on an area about where and how prominently a fact should go may be quite different in the sense of a general editor. Okay, is that really a formula for getting good information? That sounds like a formula for getting bad information.
If you're a newcomer who's tentative about editing, and you might only make a handful of edits. And you have a very particular opinion, like you very much want a particular statement to be in the article, or you very much want this image to stay in the article, that is a recipe for unhappiness.
Right. Well, I can't speak to what would happen. I mean, I would say the truth is, for somebody like me, Wikipedia lost me as I never was a contributor, but the stories I hear make me say, no way, I'm not doing that. I've got enough things to do. Thank you very much. This is not a good thing for me to be doing.
The stories that take all the, like, people spend all their time in, like, their memory of their experience tends to focus on areas of drama. You get drama where there's contention, you get contention where multiple people with different perspectives all care about how something is presented, and everyone thinks they're right. And it inevitably ends up on a wrong version that perhaps no one is happy with. But most topics don't fall into that category. The long tail of human knowledge is actually...
Well, I think the thing to start with is the fact that there are only 5 links to all the stuff I've written is very disappointing to me. It's very personally disappointing to me. I mean, it kind of is a even though I know, these things have been read millions and millions of times, it seems wrong. And I kind of, and it seems like a big, I shouldn't care about this type thing. I mean, I'm talking to you guys because I wonder, and I didn't know that number. So you told me that number. So I was not aware of that number. And so I guess my question is, if my only axe to grind with respect to most of this material is I bothered to write it. The more people that read it, the better, because, I bothered to write it type thing. But beyond that, it doesn't really, I don't think I have a deeply, politically polarized view of the history of the second law of thermodynamics, for example. This is just, a bunch of historical work that I did. Was a fair amount of work to try and untangle these things. And I doubt, well, I know because lots of people have read this and people have commented on it. I don't think anybody has yet said, oh, you got that horribly wrong. In fact, rather to the contrary, in this particular case. So, it's, all right. Do I have the nerve to click my own Wikipedia page? I think I probably don't. Should I do it or should I not do it?
I certainly avoid it for people I know.
Okay, I'll avoid it. Well, it will be good. The more accurate it is, probably the better. But I won't do it for now. Sandor on our live stream is commenting for very, very, very specific things. He said he's had good experiences editing Wikipedia, but for more popular pages, it always got reverted by some, he says, quotes, super wiki editors because it is their personal thing or so. I won't necessarily interpret that, but
the more popular a topic is, the more likely there are other people who care about it and how it's presented. The wiki as a whole is not paper. Go ahead.
Oh, if you have a lot of Wikipedia edits, like if you've done your time, people trust you a lot. When you have like 20 Wikipedia edits, people assume you're going to vandalize. So that's like, that's people's own fault. They say they're open to everyone, but in reality, it's really hard to make meaningful changes on controversial topics when you don't have like a really powerful argument and the willingness to defend it.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I mean, that sounds perfectly sensible. I mean, that sounds rational. Well, okay, what else should we cover here? We've been yakking for a while and a number of good suggestions and a number of things where I'm not convinced. What else should we do to make the world a better place, so to speak? That's a rumbling sound. I don't know what that might be the answer. I think maybe we need to cue the birds again.
Do you have any
it's-
favorite articles?
Say it again.
Do you have any favorite articles? Any goofy ones that you like?
I don't know. I'm thinking about that.
There's a list of sexually active popes. I'm pretty known just.
There's a lot of, the things that I like tend to be these sort of collective folk information things, like the thing you just mentioned, right? I mean, not that that particular one would be my particular speed, but these things where somebody contributed, or a collection of people have kind of contributed folk information in a collective way. That to me seems like a good use of things. I mean, I think also to some extent, I like the places where there's sort of a basic summary of something. I have to say, in more technical articles on more technical topics, I think Wikipedia very often defeats itself, because somebody came in and, there's some math topic or something, and I can imagine somebody saying, oh, but that's not quite right. We should say it more precisely in this way and that way. And the result is that even somebody like me can't really understand it quickly. I mean, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to go somewhere else. But I think these, I have to say that, in this kind of a pithy summary of things, I write lots of pithy summaries of things for different reasons myself, and there are a lot in the notes to the NKS book and things like that. So I'm a complex consumer of pithy summaries of things, and I would say that Wikipedia, I don't know, a quarter of the time I'm like, hey, that's a pretty good pithy summary. 3/4 of the time I'm like, it's not so great. Usually the problem is that there's kind of a core point, and people didn't quite hit the nail on the head. They kind of, maybe because they were dancing around the nail, so to speak, because, the nail was something which required a little bit more intellectual heavy lifting, which the people who were, non-experts in that thing weren't going to be able to do, and the experts were too kind of focused in on some micro detail, and so it didn't happen. But I think this kind of the folk information thing, that's good. The thing that we find, because we're always looking for data that we can kind of make computable, is the thing we tend to find is there's a certain amount of, for example, linguistic folk information, like what is the name by which this is known. That one gets very nicely from Wikipedia. The thing that things, systematic data, no, it's usually a very bad source for that, because what's happened, I think, typically is somebody said, great, we found 500 of these things, let's upload all of them. And then over the course of the next 5 years or something, people said, oh, that one isn't quite right. That one's just in my backyard, I can change that one. Then they change another one, they change another one. And pretty soon the consistency that might have existed in the original source is all gone. And that's, which is, it's just like different things are good for different purposes. And I would say that, now that kind of foraged folk information, I have to say, I think that the LLMs are going to be really pretty good at that. So I don't know what the, and I don't know what, actually, here's a question. So let's say I ask an LLM for, like here's an example. What colors were popular in fashion in such and such a year? Okay, now maybe there's a page that lists that. Maybe there's a single source, or maybe that's a kind of information that is best kind of foraged collectively from the web. And so the question would be, let's say you ask an LLM that question and it gives you an answer. I wonder, I'm just a curiosity question, kind of what's the kind of okay, so can somebody cite an LLM and say, this is my source, or is that considered, or has that not yet come up?
Well, there have been a lot of discussions. No, you can't do that.
Okay.
Do you
So
want
humans only. Okay, so wait a minute. I have to get this straight. So a human who is the actual primary source of something is not okay. An
Correct.
LLM who is not a human is not okay.
Correct.
So what's okay is a human who is what? So it can't be a primary source. It has to be somebody who read the primary source and then is writing the thing as a secondary. I'm confused here. Help me out.
For a lot of science, like, I don't know, I edit a lot of like biology articles. I don't edit a lot of math articles, but yeah, they prefer review articles. Sometimes if you're talking about personal statements, like, hey, I got divorced. If you tweet that, you can cite the tweet. But if you tweet, hey, I don't know, the sky is blue, the sky is like pink, you obviously can't cite a tweet for something like that. I will say this is a little bit different, but I was at the Wikimedia hackathon this weekend, and my friend Tony, he did something that you're gonna like. He made a section summarization tool. I'll put it in I'll put it in our Zoom chat here, but you can add this to your Wikipedia customizations page. And what it does is it takes the sections of Wikipedia and then it will use an LLM to make a little summary of the section.
Right. Yeah, right. No, that's what I mean. The summarization prompt in our prompt repository will do the same thing. Yeah, right. This is it's a good thing, and it works surprisingly well.
And there's a funding from, okay, and just another AI thing if you're interested, but there was a talk like about a year ago where Meta announced this project, I forgot the name of it, where they were gonna like check the Wikipedia sources to see if the source is saying what Wikipedia says it says, if that makes sense. To make sure that Wikipedia
did they do it?
Right. I don't think it's in use. I haven't heard about it in about a year.
Yeah, that would be a good use of LLMs. That would work nicely. That would be
I never saw it enter production. It would be amazing.
Right. That seems highly useful.
It's about 100 million calls. So
what's that?
It would be about 100 million calls to their function.
Yeah, right. But I mean, let's see. Yeah, I mean, so here's a meta question, talking of meta, but not that meta. I mean, you know, clearly, I personally and we as a company have spent lots of effort kind of putting out knowledge into the world and so on. And I think the Wikipedia community is kind of interested in the same things. So my question would be, you know, how, you know, what's the best way to be friends, so to speak? I mean, we have a certain, you know, we have certain resources, we have certain unique capabilities, we have, you know, it seems like Wikipedia has not made good use of what we have, except maybe for MathWorld, and so the question would be, you know, I think our goals for the world are fairly aligned. How can we, you know, what can we do? I mean, you know, from our side of this, and there's things we can't do because that's, you know, on the Wikipedia side, but you know, what can we do to be kind of to be better friends? So I don't think we're friends at all, actually, but I mean, what can we do to be better friends?
You know, Wikipedia is not a single organism. It's a colony of organisms, lots of organelles, and probably the spikiest. There's a narrow subset of the colony that has spiky reactions, right? The sort of antibody reactions. The projects really get along well with this is just I was reflecting and thinking about the same thing. The product really love lists and feeds and categories, and some way of generating things that that synthesize the category of things on which we could be friends, that allows for the time factor of the wikis. Like the time factor on which things happen might take a few months. It takes people who are interested in the thing to meet people who can automate the thing, to develop an idea, to bring people together. There's something organic about it. However that's possible, a little piece of it we were talking about. We talked about some very specific pieces for a known body of images or a known body of entities that don't really have a name, that deserve a name that can be referenced. But there are a lot of other little facets of that you've been talking about. And just if we can incubate a community that loves the stream of these things that's coming out of the Wolframverse, and then they can help curate how that communicates with the Wikiverse. I think there are so many people in both communities that want good.
So how do we do this? So it seems like a good idea. I mean, so we've got probably, I don't know, we've got, we went through a whole bunch of material that we have, right? And so the question would be, I mean, whether it's a blog of mine, whether it's demonstrations, whether it's posts on our community site, whether it's the History of Math project, all these kinds of things. I mean, we could certainly make something where there is a, you tell me, I mean, is there some, project that somebody could set up where we say, fine, we'll upload a bunch of images to Wikimedia Commons, and somebody else, not us, because, will say, great, we'll send it along with tags and things like this. And somebody will then say, okay, let's have a project to see where these images can be usefully placed in Wikipedia. I mean, that would be how does one get such a thing to happen? I mean, you'd be an example of a person who would probably be
Yes.
in the kind of this is something you could do. So I mean, if we uploaded, I mean, God knows how many it'll be. I would guess it'll be 100,000 images. So we wouldn't feed that. We could not feed that to you all in one day, because that would that's a bit of overkill. But I mean, let's say that we did it, and I don't know how automated it would be. We did it progressively, and we notify something somewhere, or we just uploaded a bunch of other images related to this topic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What, and then, okay, anybody who cares, have at it, go put these in relevant pages or whatever else. Or we say, I mean, let me ask this question. If there's text, one thing we could do is say, okay, here's a piece of text, and, this is our moment where we're telling people, look, it's a new thing that exists, and you can have at it and put it on Wikipedia. This is like my history of the second law of thermodynamics or something would be an example of that. What is the right way? I mean, that page has been read by a large number of people. So the fact that nobody, presumably, since you said there were only 5 references to my whole blog verse, so to speak, writings verse, I don't think it's quite, I refer to it as a blog from time to time, but I'm not really quite sure it's fair to call it a blog. It's a combination blog, archive source, book source, etc. But anyway, occasionally there are articles that are more blog-like, but those are pretty rare at this point. Okay, so I mean, the thing exists. What does one do to say, okay, here's a thing that's a useful source, do something with it?
Yeah, if there's and you've run editathons more recently than I have, but if there's a tag for things that are wiki friendly, then people who are excited about that would know. And there's a lot of work that goes into one of those, and there are probably 4 or 5 processes that could be batched to figure out how to.
Okay.
Also, okay, there's a thing called GLAM, Galleries, Galleries, Libraries, Archives, Museum. They do similar things where they have massive repositories of images of like artifacts that they'll upload in batches, and it's an extraordinary amount of work, but there are a lot of people out there that have experience doing such massive things.
Yeah, the software engineering is not the big problem. The big problem is if we do the software engineering, will anybody care?
Yeah, once it's up, people know that it's.
But how do we tell people that it's there?
Okay, well, I mean, the thing that Sam put in our little chat, I think, is like putting a tag on the blog, like, this is Wikipedia friendly, a tiny reminder.
What kind of tag should that be? How should we do that? Give me a practical suggestion.
But you already have the little thing that says like CC, MIT license, blah, blah, blah. You could be really explicit and just write at the bottom, you can put this on Wikipedia, which isn't necessary. But if people are kind of lazy and don't go in the terms, then maybe that's just a little nudge, like, hey, share this.
Fair enough. Well, maybe there needs to be a little icon that means Wikipedia friendly. Maybe you guys need
Wikipedia should do that.
Yeah.
Or just a category on, like, if there were a category for the writings that said that was wiki friendly.
What do you mean by a category? You mean on our side or on the Wikipedia side?
I mean, on your side, you have a bunch of categories that you attach to each post.
Yeah, but they're all Wikipedia friendly. I mean, we don't care about. I mean, they're all equivalent in that regard. So I mean, they're all things. I mean, some of them would not be of interest to Wikipedia. That's a different issue. But I mean, in terms of being kind of, you know, so I mean, that's the question: is how do we tell anybody who would care? You know, assuming that we don't have time, inclination, and people probably wouldn't like it if we said, here are all these pictures, you know, I was thinking that what I would do in this actual live stream is actually create a login on Wikipedia and see what it takes to, you know, and find out front lines, you know, add something and see whether somebody reverts it during the course of the live stream. But we've now used our time. So
we got sidetracked.
Yeah, right.
For a lot of these things, I think you want either a bot, either a script to do the upload, or you want people who are one step removed to do some of the edits, but maybe including people from the Wolfram community. So it feels like there should be a GLAM partnership where the Wolfram site is the archive. And that usually includes passing on a catalog with some, there's often some sort of prioritization information, like how relevant or how popular are the different topics. So if you have limited time, start here. So
explain this to me. I mean, this GLAM thing. So let's say I go tell somebody, take our 100,000 images and upload them, right?
Yes.
This is that's a perfectly doable thing, right? So then what do I tell them to do to, you know, and put all the relevant stuff, I don't know exactly what it is, but, you know, we figure out the relevant stuff to say, yes, this is an image, you can use it. Here's what you have to cite, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That's so then, okay, then how do we, you know, is this GLAM thing a mechanism for telling people about that, or how does that work?
Yeah, they often hire a Wikipedian in residence, like at the Smithsonian, and that person will put everything in Wikidata, make sure it's interoperable, or sometimes organize editathons. Sometimes they'll put them into articles. It's things like the Kansas City Library, things like the British Museum.
Okay, but if we did that, people would be horrified. There'd be pitchforks, right?
Well, there's a large approval process. So if you get approved, then
it would be great.
So tell me, so what are you suggesting there? I don't quite understand that. So you're suggesting we pay for somebody to do what?
Well, okay, you were asking. So the thing that I've seen being done before, not telling you to spend all your money on this, but I've seen things like the Smithsonian pay a person to be the Wikipedian in residence. If you're an organization like the Smithsonian who cares about opening up access to knowledge, etc., then
yeah, well, obviously I've spent God knows how much money and time opening up access to knowledge. So I count, but we're not.
I'm sure you count.
It's not a but we also have a company that makes money selling software, but that's a separate branch from the world of creating knowledge. And like, my own writings effort is just me, so to speak. But so what oh boy, is that cat a Wikipedian at this point?
This cat has made a lot of errors that got reverted very quickly.
I thought it was like at the critical moment, the cat is the one that presses return. So anyway, but okay.
Secondly, what Annie said, you could have a Wikipedian residence yourself. The minimal thing would be for us to define the project together, like for you to either we could talk through it, or there could be someone who understands the structure of what the 100,000 articles and their metadata look like. We could have a little conversation, and then we summarize that in one of these requests for batch uploading. And I posted a link in the shared chat, and that request usually just adds a link to a source website. So the link could say, here are the categories on the Wolfram sites from which these things should be extracted. And then as people get to them, they would write a little script that would do the appropriate scraping. Or better yet, maybe you could like package up the entire thing as a download, and it would just be a question of getting it to someone who could run the batch uploader.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of the engineering, I'm not concerned about the, we're I believe, competent software operation. And, if it's like take 100,000 pictures and upload them here, that's a piece of Wolfram language code that is probably on the order of 2 lines long.
Right.
That's easy.
But this is more of a barn raising, and the barn raising is not about the engineering of building a barn. It's inviting the people who want the barn to exist to come together.
Well, that's the part I don't know anything about. So that's the part that that's the part that relies on you, so to speak. I mean, because that's just not this is the part I don't understand at all. But that's we have a lot of material. Happy to do the engineering part of it. I don't understand the barn raising. And if there's if it's a question, I don't know if it's like, oh, can we hire an intern to help do this? Probably the answer to that would be sure, fine. If it's like, oh, let's get a expensive software engineer to do it, that's a different story. But in the let's hire an intern to help with this, absolutely. And if you've got suggestions for people, let's say, here's the thing. My point of view is we went to an awful lot of trouble to create all this material. It's a shame if the world doesn't see it. And Wikipedia is, a fine venue for it. And I'm happy to see it there. On the other hand, life is too short to have kind of the, trench warfare, so to speak. So it's kind of, I think the thing of greatest interest to us, because it has, it's the place where there's real, it really makes a difference, is Wikipedia itself. I mean, Wikidata, most of the consumers of Wikidata are people like us, doing, mostly it's computers. And I think we have better ways to contribute to the computer ecosystem. I think the way for us to contribute, what we're interested in more is so I mean, I think, so look, it seems like the things for us which are very useful that you guys have pointed out are, our terms of service are kind of muddy and sometimes not Wikipedia friendly. That's a thing which, it's kind of like we're prepared to sign away all those things to make that Wikipedia friendly. That's easy. That's frankly insofar as that's not already the case, that's kind of just a mistake. It's, we can do that. We'll tell you we did it. Then, we can find ways to put tags on that link also to Wikidata, probably, to put tags on images that we have. Possibly, would it also be useful to put tags on the articles that we have? Is that useful? Let's say we could put a Wikidata, collection of Wikidata tags onto some section of one of my writings. Would that be a useful thing to have, or is there no way to consume that?
You can do that. Give one very specific example.
Okay, so let's say we've got the section of my piece about the history of thermodynamics.
Right.
And it's a piece where it mentions the following 10 people, and it mentions the following 8 concepts or something. And we can find the Wikidata tags. We could also probably find the Wikipedia pages. Actually, that's a good point. We would know the Wikipedia pages that were relevant to that. So we could say, here's this block of text. Here are the Wikipedia pages. And the same will be true of images, by the way. We would know which Wikipedia pages are relevant to those images. We could put that in the tags.
So that would be insanely useful. And then something that does happen in other contexts for GLAM projects is someone gets the archive to update and tag all of their media or all of their collection entries. Someone else writes a script that anyone can log into and say, show me 100 entries from this corpus. And then they go through and say, yes, 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 no. Sometimes they give feedback back to the source and say, this tag's probably wrong.
Right, that sounds good. I mean, look, so then the idea would be, okay, we got 2 categories of things. We've got images. We upload those to
Commons.
To the Wikimedia Commons.
Confusingly named Commons.
What's that?
The confusingly named Commons. Yeah.
Why is that confusing?
Sorry, because within the Wikiverse, people refer to it as just the Commons, but there are many Commonses, of course.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, right. So that's not a confusion that I had, but because I had the prefix word. But no. So then, okay. So we upload there. We tag it with the Wikipedia pages that are relevant, the Wikidata entities that are relevant, and some human readable tags. Is that a reasonable approach? And then, so that would be, and then we tell you we did that. And then there's some mechanism. So now tell us the mechanism. So, okay, so we got this thing, and we say, let's say we do 100 pages to begin with. We just upload these, we put in some tags. We can ask people, are these tags useful? Are these the right tags? We can change the tags. We do that. Then it's like, okay, here's the thing. So does that sound about right for the images? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, for lumps of text, is it, I mean, maybe there isn't a mechanism for those, but if we have a lump of text that's, this section of, thermodynamics in the 1880s or something, which is, will be not quite, but roughly some, or the ergodicity would be, the history of ergodicity will be a section in my piece about the history of thermodynamics. So what could we do with that text? How can we make that text more Wikipedia friendly?
The same process of identifying related articles and Wikidata entities would be quite useful.
And where would we put that data?
It could just be a bit of JSON attached to each article. However,
nobody will find that. I mean, that seems like
to be a version of the article that even has hyperlinks from the specific terms. It's probably more densely linked than you might want from the normal.
Yeah, we don't want that, because that makes it, the page will be blue in that case. Plus, we have our own links for many of those terms. We'll have our own links.
Right. So it could just be a JSON file that one of these scripts could read, And then again, there's an interim step, which takes a moment, waiting for someone to realize there's a beautifully annotated corpus and make a script that relies on that, and then shows people places that they could engage or update.
But I mean, but is there? I mean, for the images, there's already this Wikimedia Commons where people upload lots of images. But what this really is an area of tagging information for text. It's kind of like, is there a place for that? So this is basically making it easy. We can get a system that goes through and figures out these are the Wikipedia pages and these are the Wikidata entities and so on that are relevant to this particular note in the NKS book or some such other thing, right? So then the question is, where on earth do we put that? I mean, we can do that. That's from a software engineering point of view, it can be done. Is there a place in Wikimedia Commons perhaps where one could just upload a bunch of those JSON files, for example? Would that make sense? I mean, if one does it, if it's like that's an interesting idea that Danielle is suggesting here. If we just did an entry in our data repository, that's a good idea.
And then we'd make an entry for that in Wikidata, and people could go and mine it and use it for their script. Yeah,
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. That seems like I mean, then once again, it's like people have to know that it's there. But that seems like, from a software engineering point of view, that seems like a good solution. Yeah, I like that. That's interesting, actually. And that yeah.
Danielle, now you have to come on screen.
What's that?
Now Danielle has to come on camera.
I don't know whether she's.
No, that's great. That's great.
I mean, no, she doesn't. She's avoiding the camera. Okay, I think she just got back from being away for a while on some
very good
thing. But anyway, all right. Well, look, this is we may have done some good for the world. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's all reverted, so to speak, to not use some. But hopefully,
I'm very excited about that. About the what to me feels like a change in licensing. You can't revert my happiness.
Right. Well, that's good. That's yeah. I like to think of that for myself as well. That you can't revert happiness once you've been happy. It's anyway. But all right. Well, we should probably wrap up here. And anything else that we should make sure to cover? And I appreciate this has been informative. Nice to see you, Sam. Nice to meet you, Annie. And Sam, are you still in the Boston area?
Yeah, I am.
Wow, I might actually run into you somewhere. Who's to know? I think I used to run into you like a decade and a half ago. We seem to maybe you've ascended or something to different circles.
No, maybe just less time on campus. But if you ever are, Annie's in New York, I believe. Sometimes.
I know less about Wikidata than Sam does, but I know about English Wikipedia. Also, I do comedy shows about Wikipedia, so if you want to be in one, just let me know.
Oh, wow. Wait a minute. How on earth does that work?
Annie is the best communicator about Wikipedia that I've ever met, and it is so delightful. Talk about unrevertible joy.
I'll be in Boston in the fall.
Oh, let me know. Yeah,
okay,
that sounds like,
maybe I'll make you do trivia
on
stage.
What's that?
Maybe I'll make you do trivia on stage, and maybe I'll make it be about really obscure stuff, so I stump you.
That's, in the category of doing things that I'm very much into, doing things that I've never done before. So being part of a comedy show about Wikipedia would definitely be in that category. So let me know when you're in Boston. That sounds like
good. Yeah. I will let you know.
All right. Well, very nice to chat with you both, and be in touch. All right. And thanks to folks on the live stream. See you all another time.
Thanks, everyone.